So Sylvain, who tells me in the chat a bit off topic, I got a surveillance camera, Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi station that connects to the box, but only the hosted web applications are offered to me. Would you have an idea via Delphi to retrieve the data from these two objects locally through the box? To exploit and store them. Okay, so, oh, yes. The problem is retrieving the video streams. It depends on, so wait, surveillance camera, Wi-Fi, a weather Wi-Fi station. All right. So for the camera, generally there is a stream. So we have an additional aerial that is stored in RTP or something else. Depending on the format, they are not managed, obviously standard by IP devices. So IP surveillance cameras are not supported by the T-Media player, which uses Windows APIs. So for that, actually, we have plenty of libraries, which notably use FFmpeg or VLC from Videolan. There are solutions, but it's never convenient. Depending on what we're doing, we can't retrieve the stream ourselves. There are things, notably at Meetov Software, at meetov.com, which has video acquisition elements that might allow you to work with them. You need to look into that. However, the documentation is not very clear. Depending on the hardware, it's not super easy to manage. And for me, on a surveillance application, I went through Videolan because I don't actually need the video. I don't need to be RAM, so I import into Delphi, the VLC DLL. And in Pascal, in FireMonkey, or in VCL, for Windows, you can declare a screen area that will be used for image reporting. Feel free to send a link if you want, a message if you want, the links to those things. For the weather station, either it has an API, and at that point we have access to the data, or it doesn't, or at least not an official API, and so we can't do anything. Anyway, one way or another, if it's a Wi-Fi device, it definitely has an IP. So if the manufacturer publishes the information, we can retrieve it with the web components provided with Delphi. If the manufacturer doesn't do it, you have to rely on the surveillance tools we have. There are plenty of monitoring software that generally run on Raspberry to manage Wi-Fi devices locally and generally. They have quite a few drivers for things that are not officially supported by the manufacturers. So it's possible that the API for the weather station is also available through this method. And so we have to do reverse engineering, to retrieve the storage format and then interpret it in the program. So it depends on the equipment and then various things, automation, smart homes and others that could potentially manage it. There, without specific information, I can't say anything more about it. In any case, there is nothing purely Delphi to retrieve those things. So either we use external components or APIs provided by the devices, and then everyone manages with the equipment depending on where it comes from. So there are resources available on the internet, but it's true that the documentation for these things is not always readily available, nor understandable. And since most manufacturers don't provide the information anyway, we're generally out of luck. But in any case, if they provide a web application that allows data retrieval, there is some way to view it. It remains to be seen whether the web application in question is hosted online by them or if it can be used locally. Because if it goes through them, there is no direct access. In fact, it's the camera that sends to their server, which then sends us the streaming back. And so obviously this is equipment to avoid since it goes through a third party. And the day they shut down, nothing works for us anymore. But here it depends on a case-by-case basis. I won't send you links that come to mind right away based on the equipment you have. So you need to search, but there are solutions. There are plenty of surveillance tools that work in Delphi. I could name 2 to 3 if my memory worked on that. It's been a long time since I last dove back into the problem. But there are some, notably at the company TTS, whose name I don't remember in full, which makes applications in Delphi for monitoring road cameras or others for corporate surveillance and things like that. but they are in the southern suburbs of Paris. But right now, indeed, I don't have more information that comes to mind. And unfortunately, no webinar links planned for that. Although on the local IP camera part, it can... Maybe I'll write something one of these days, since there's a component on GitHub that allows you to retrieve that to interface with VLC pool. So it's quite handy. By the way, I must have posted the link somewhere on developer.com on the forum a few days ago. Or week or month, I don't really remember. It must have been this summer. Someone was asking a question related to that. I had to repost the link to VLC Player. So don't hesitate to search for VLC Player on GitHub, which will be faster.